Well, we're back with We Don't Color on the Dog. I've been doing Jeff Bergosh's show since he's taken over the morning radio slot, and it's my turn to get him on the podcast. So, Jeff, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely, Rick, and I enjoy Wednesdays with you on my show. Thank you very much.
Well, you do a great job. I tell you, it's fun to keep my finger in radio a little bit. I like it. A big story that opened this week with was this huge boat launch that's being put in over at Galvez Landing,
Yes,
over
sir.
in the Innerary Point area near Hub Stacy's. If you're familiar where Hubs is at the point, a lot of neighbors are concerned. They feel like it kind of popped up on them again. You were commissioner for that area for a while. Tell us what you know about the project.
Obviously, Rick, that area there's a lot of folks that have lived there a long time, and they're used to Galvez Landing being a place where they can relax, so their children could go swimming. There's a picnic bench there. There was a swing, and there's also a boat ramp. And so the county, when I was the commissioner, we had tried to find a way to make it to where both factions could enjoy the same amenity. We spent a lot of money on Innerarity Park, Point Park, right next door
Right, it's on
at
the
Galvez.
other side of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we also added, we redid the parking lot. We restriped it to accommodate the bigger boats and trailers and trucks. So I felt like things were pretty good at that point. We reached a stalemate. We spent some county money taking out some vegetation. We put some game type fencing up. We improved a drainage function, a drainage swale that was actually in the corner of the county's property. It also was adjacent to Hub Stacy. So we did a lot of work. And as I left office, I felt like things were pretty good. So I don't know if there's a new project in the pipeline, Rick. And if it is, the county would be well served to listen to the people at Galvez Landing because they're very, very passionate about that park.
Well, and it's an older neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of development that's happened there. Redfish, there's some areas there that have developed, but that side of that road is really a lot of small, I like to call them fish camp type houses, but they're smaller neighborhoods there. When I was doing some research on it today, a little bit earlier before I reached out to you, this looks like to me a project that started under Doug Underhill. He seemed to be a big proponent of making that boat landing much bigger than it is.
Yeah, and we modified that. And again, when I was the commissioner there from 22 till I left office in 24, we did make some progress there. We redid the parking lot, and again, there's some drainage issues, and we addressed a few of them. But I think any kind of an enhancement or any kind of enlargement of the boat launch in at Galvez Landing is going to be met with resistance. I mean, the folks there are pretty passionate. They don't want to be told, "Hey, you go over there. There's a park over there. You go swim over there." They like it the way it has been, and I believe there's a way to strike the balance, Rick. I just think the county has to find the way to strike the balance. I believe it can be done.
Well, and they've asked for a town hall meeting, and to his credit, Commissioner Stroberger did add it to an agenda next Monday, which is after the deadline that feedback needs to be received. But still, the county commission still has chances to modify the plan. It's still in the hearing phase. You've already done. I mean, gosh, Jeff, one of your big projects was a boat landing over, on Perdido Bay too.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's a great facility. A lot of the knock that we had on that boat launch, and that was many years in the making. It started under Wilson Robertson, and I kind of grabbed the torch, and it was all I could do to get that thing done before the end of my term. But yeah, but the knock on that one, Rick, is you go into the lower Perdido Bay, so you got a motor, you got to steam a long way to get to the Gulf of Mexico. Whereas right there at Galvez Landing, you're very close. You're in the intercoastal already. So, I mean, the west side of Escambia County is doing pretty well. I mean, and Galvez Landing is a very nice facility. Obviously, when there aren't boats there, I'm sure Hub Stacy appreciates the additional parking. Of course, in his parking lot, he says no, no parking unless you're a customer. Obviously, he's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. But I do think, Rick, I think the west side is doing very, very well. There's some infrastructure needs. And now that the county has sold OLF 8, I think, you divide the proceeds of that 5 ways. And I think you're going to see a lot of improvement. To Commissioner Stroberger's credit, yes, I saw his town hall scheduled for not only Galvez Landing, but for Sorrento Road. Now, that is a dangerous road. We've had a number of fatalities there. You've reported about it. Obviously, I've reported about it. So I think that's the elephant in the room. I think Sorrento Road coming out of Perdido Key, getting out of that area, got to get that thing four laned. And the tragedy is, Rick, as you know, that was on the books under Commissioner Valentino. That project was on the books to four lane Perdido Key Drive, Sorrento all the way out. And obviously, an election happened in 2014, and elections have consequences, and that project got killed. But I think that's part of what Commissioner Stroberger is going to have his town hall on. And I think that's the important issue. Obviously, Galvez Landing is important, but we're having fatalities on Sorrento Road, and I don't know exactly what he can do. But whatever we can all do as a community, we've got to fix that situation out there.
Jeff, before you go, and I appreciate you doing this, and
Sure.
I'll return the favor tomorrow,
Yes,
but
sir.
on your show. But the talk about how to make a good town hall meeting. You did several.
Yes,
You were
sir.
a school board member. You were on the county commission. Talk about what makes a good town hall meeting.
Well, in my opinion, obviously I hosted a lot of them, particularly after we redistricted. But in my opinion, Rick, no one is well served if you just hand out a microphone and let people ask 5 or 6 or 8 minute questions when they're not even asking questions, but they're screaming and yelling at you. We've seen some of those. For my opinion, Rick, you have to have relevant staff there so that everyone's questions can be answered. And I think you set up an agenda and you stick to the agenda. And you have to have control. Obviously, you have to control the room as best you can, and you do that by putting up the agenda, putting it out ahead of time, telling everyone. I had comment cards because I wanted to make sure that everyone who wanted to ask a question had an opportunity to do so, and I would take the comments and read them. But I think the best part of a town hall is people can interact with their county commissioner or their school board member or whatever the case might be, but it has to be done in an orderly manner. The town halls that turn into the Jerry Springer show. That, what's funny, that's an old reference, but a lot of people might not get that. But if you let it devolve into chaos, no one is well served. So I liked to run orderly town halls. I don't know how Commissioner Stroberger does it, but that was what I always found worked the best. And then at the end, I would stay and talk to anyone who wanted to speak with me about any. I would stand right there at the podium to the very end. And I think if they do that, you might not be able to tell your constituents everything they want to hear, but at least they know they will be heard.
Well, what about the mix of having staff, department heads there? Do you see that as something that's important to a town hall?
Percent absolutely. We've got a great staff. We have a great staff at the county. Wes Marino is an excellent administrator. All of his top deputies, they do a great job, and they were always very supportive of all the commissioners and the town halls. And I really appreciated that because a lot of times they know, obviously they do the day in day out management and running of the county, right? It's not us. It's not county commissioners. It's not us. We're office holders. We meet with constituents, we set policy, but we don't do the day-to-day operations. So when constituents have questions that really get down into the weeds, yeah, it's really great to have a Tim Day or a Horace Jones or a Wes Marino. It's good to have the guys who have the innate knowledge, because sometimes they can put out a fire like that. And if you're up there fumbling for the answer as an elected official, that doesn't satisfy the constituents. But having a staff member, so I always found it very helpful, Rick, to have as many staff as possible. And I have seen that in the other commissioners. I believe they're doing that, and I certainly hope that at this town hall on May 30th, that Commissioner Stroberger has as many staff members as possible. In particular, Chris Phillips and the folks from the roads department, because the questions are going to come about Sorrento Road, as they should.
I guess the other thing is the follow up. How did you handle follow up for town?
What? Well, here's the thing. We would answer every question on the spot, and then we had comment cards. And if we did not know the answer or we didn't have the answer, we would ensure that that went to the relevant staff member. And the thing about the comment cards, and I don't know if Commissioner Stroberger and Hassan Rial, his aide, are still doing that, but it's a good tool because you would have a record of who came, and it would have their address or their email address and their phone number, so that the relevant staff member could close the loop with them. If you don't have the answer and there's no easy way to remember who asked the question, you're never going to get the answer to that constituent. And again, the longer you make people wait without an answer, the more fired up they get. So that was the way we did that. The relevant staff member would send an email or call the constituent directly.
All right, Jeff, before you go, you've got the floor to give a commercial about your radio show.
Well, hey, Rick, thank you very much. I run the Wake Up Call on WPNN. It's Pensacola's information station. After I left office, I was blessed with the opportunity. And Rick, as you know, as someone who's run multiple successful radio shows, it's work, but it's
Mhm.
a lot of fun too. I have fun with it. We have great guests. Rick, you yourself, you join us every week. You bring the audience in on all the the inside story that the News Journal and WEAR are never going to cover because you have your finger on the pulse. With In Weekly and Rick's blogs, we do a lot of that. 6 to 8 every morning, 790 on the AM dial. Check us out, 103.7 on FM or the WPNN app. And every Wednesday, make sure at the 7 o'clock hour you're there because Rick Outzen and I, we have a good time. We talk about local issues. He knows a lot about things. I know a little bit about a few things. And between the two of us, we can really drill down on things that are important that matter.
Well, the thing that you and I have always understood is we can have different opinions and still get along,
Absolutely.
and that to me,
Absolutely.
that's never been an issue for me, and it's not, but that's great. For our viewers, listen, if you like this podcast, please subscribe, like it. That helps us move us up the food of the chain of command with YouTube. But Jeff, thank you so much for doing this, and we'll have
Yes,
a
sir.
conversation Wednesday morning.
Yes, we will. I'll shoot you something, a text pretty soon. And yeah, looking forward to that tomorrow, Rick. Thank you.
About that man, and you see, we're just a